Hey everybody, the Long Shot Signatures here. Wanted to share another autograph collection that I've been working on with you guys. So this is one that I started last year. It is the 91 and 92 Prosec cards of NHRA drivers. So you guys know I've been collecting NHRA drivers pretty much since the start of my autograph collecting hobby. That's where it all started, was meeting a couple of the drivers and then going to the track and getting a whole bunch of hero cards signed. And now I kind of want to go back and see if I can get some of these Pro Set cards. I also saw a bunch of addresses pop up on Sports Card Forum from someone else who was doing something similar, which really helped out a lot. But there's a lot of good signers of the ones who are still living. Unfortunately, there are a lot who have passed away. It's more of you're kind of a lifer with NHRA drag racing. Like once you're in it, you're in it. But there's really not a whole lot of people that come in for a few years and then leave, and there's not a lot of young talent that makes their way through, especially with as dominant as some of the teams have been over the years. If you do get a young guy, they usually do leave pretty quickly. But there's been a lot of legendary racers, of course, in all the different divisions. And so, they started making some cards with the Pro Set, and a lot of these people, thankfully, are still alive and currently signing. Most of them you can get through home addresses. Like I said, Sports Card Forum is going to be a good place to go for that, to find who to send to. A couple of these were acquired in person. I'll try to note those where possible. But there's going to be a lot of names that repeat, because ones that are in the 91 set are going to be in the 92 set as well, and some have 2 or 3 cards per the set. So I'll try and go through it quickly. But to start off, we've got Joe Amato, multi-time champion, Gene Snow, Eddie Hill. Frank Bradley signed this card, as well as his wife Maggie, which was really cool. I didn't ask her to do that, but obviously they still live together, and so she signed that as well. Kenny Bernstein, he's also known as a legendary NASCAR owner. So his address has been out there for quite a while, a number of years now, and he's been a really good signer. Frank Hawley owns a drag racing school, so that's where I sent to, and I was able to get him back. Shirley Muldowney, I acquired this one in person. She's a really good signer if you get to meet her. I don't know how she is through the mail. I haven't seen anything on as far as like where to send to, or if she does sign, and if she does sign, does she require a fee. But she's often at drag racing events selling signed posters, and the last time I went, she sat there literally the entire day and just signed autographs for people, which is really awesome of her. It just stinks that there's so many that take advantage of that and leave with like dozens of items, having her sign them. Chris Karamazines, he recently retired, but he is up there. So if you are going to start collecting NHRA drivers, I would recommend getting something out to him pretty soon. He was born in the 30s or 40s. Jim Head, I believe he's still an owner of a team. Let's see, is that? Yep, that's still in the shot. Tommy Johnson Jr. is a semi-retired driver. He's still working in the NHRA. Last I knew, it was with one of the race teams. He was called to drive a car when Matt Hagan tested positive for COVID this past year. I don't think he ended up getting to race or qualify for that event, but there is a home address that you can send to for him. Michael Brotherton. Daryl Gwynn's a really interesting story. Started up drag racing in the 80s and 90s. Was really good. Was on his way to become, a future champion, future legend of the sport, and had a very unfortunate crash that left him paralyzed from the waist down. I believe he either lost an arm or his other arm is paralyzed, but he is still able to make use of, I believe it's his right arm. So he will sign through the mail. So really cool of him to do that. There's a whole foundation. He's been heavily involved in drag racing, ever since. He's even driven a couple cars that have been modified to to his needs for driving. But it's a sad story, but it's good, that he survived and that he's making the most of it. Got a few from John Force. He is a great signer TTM. He's pretty strict on the 2 per now, with his much mail as he's gotten over the years. I was able to get one in person as well. Ed Ace McCulloch, Hall of Famer. Bruce Larson's a Hall of Famer. Mark Oswald, Richard Hartman, Glenn Meekers. Mike Dunn's also a former ESPN commentator, mainly for drag racing. I think it's a home address that we send to now. Connie Kalita, send that right to Kalita Motorsports. That's how I was able to get it. It's in Michigan, because I haven't been able to find a home address. It's pretty reliable, but I sent to Kalita Motorsports, taking a shot, and it worked out for me. Daryl Alderman, Jerry Ekman. Larry Morgan is still involved in racing. I believe he's just now an owner. I wouldn't know the address to send to as far as his race team, but there is a home address out there. Warren Johnson is an absolute legend. He is now second all-time in pro stock wins, but for until this season, he was the all-time leading winner and one of the all-time leading winners in any division of NHRA drag racing. He's pretty tough to get in person, but he's been a pretty good TTM signer. Ricky Smith. Mark Powick is still involved in racing. I think it's via Don Schumacher Racing. Bruce Allen. Kenny Delco. I want to say he was racing up until a few years ago, because that name was really familiar to me when I first sent off to him. Jerry Haas. Jim Yates. And then they switch over to the cards. So I'm just going to read through the names real quick. Joe Amato, Gene Snow, Eddie Hill, Frank Bradley, Kenny Bernstein, Frank Hawley, Shirley Muldowney in person, Chris Karamazines, Jim Head, Tommy Johnson Jr., Michael Brotherton, Daryl Gwynn, 2 of John Force, Ed McCulloch, Bruce Larson, Mark Oswald, Richard Hartman, Glenn Meekers, Daryl Alderman, Jerry Ekman, Larry Morgan, Warren Johnson, Ricky Smith, Mark Powick, Bruce Allen, Kenny Delco, Jerry Haas, and Jim Yates. Then we get to some other legends and crew chief members, or crew chiefs. Tim Richards was a longtime crew chief. He might still be doing that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he was a very long time crew chief. Kenny Bernstein, owner/driver. Don Garlitz does charge, I think it's $5 or $10 an autograph, but he did include an extra card when I wrote to him. Just an excellent guy. Owns a whole bunch of land speed records that he broke while helping the NHRA grow over the years. Frank Iacono, we'll say he's a crew chief. Wyatt Radke, crew chief. John Medlin. He is, of course, the father of the late Eric Medlin, who passed away during a practice run. And he's jumped around from a few different teams now, but he was involved in John Force Racing, Don Schumacher Racing. I think he's still involved with Don Schumacher Racing. He's one of their crew chiefs. But during another run that he was watching over, he forgot to put in his earplugs, and the cars went off the starting line, and it caused him to go deaf. But he's an excellent reader of lips, so like you can still have a conversation with him, and he can't hear you, but he can read your lips and pretty much figure out what you're saying. Really awesome guy, and he returned that pretty quickly when I wrote to him. Bernie Federley, longtime crew chief for John Force. Definitely someone worth writing to. Kim LaHaye. I'm going to say that she was like the daughter of Dick LaHaye or something like that. And crew chief, and I think she drove for a couple years. And then Connie Kalita. So that wraps up the 91 set. A lot of the same names are in the 92 set, but I'll go through those real quickly and bring up anyone else if I have anything to say about them if I weren't in the 91 set. Joe Amato, Kenny Bernstein, Frank Hawley, Eddie Hill, Gene Snow. Corey McLenithan stopped racing a few years ago, but thankfully there is a home address to send to for him. Jim Head, Tommy Johnson Jr. Pat Austin was a top fuel driver for a short time, but he was a top alcohol driver as well. They're basically the kind of lower division that helps a lot of drivers get into the top of, top fuel funny car. So just switch the names of those to top alcohol dragster and top alcohol funny car, and you've basically got like the minor league system for that. The records for them are very poorly kept. Really, the only thing you can find out is who was champion each year. Beyond that, it's really difficult to know like who's the best of the best in that division. Cruz Pedregon, I want to say he's still an active racer. He was racing when I was at the U.S. Nationals this year. Didn't get to meet him, but he and his brother Tony Pedregon have a race shop. You can usually send there for autographs. Frank Bradley, Connie Coletta, Shirley Muldowney, Kim LaHaye, Eddie Hill, Kenny Bernstein, Joe Amato, John Force, Wyatt Radke, Glenn Mikers, John Force again, Ed McCulloch, Mark Oswald, Richard Hartman, Mark Oswald again, Ed McCulloch, Mike Dunn, Warren Johnson, Larry Morgan, Jerry Ekman, I think was a crew chief, Bruce Allen, no, he was the driver, Jim Yates, Ricky Smith, Jerry Haas, Frank Iacono, Kenny Delco, Mark Powick, Jerry Ekman, Larry Morgan, Warren Johnson. And then we get to all the vehicle photos again. Joe Amato, Kenny Bernstein, Michael Brotherton, Eddie Hill, Gene Snow, Kim LaHaye, Corey Mack, Jim Head, Tommy Johnson, Pat Austin, Ed McCulloch, Frankie Bradley, John Force, Cruz Pedregon, Mark Oswald, Richard Hartman, Jerry Haas, Warren Johnson, Larry Morgan, Ricky Smith, Frank Iacono, Jerry Ekman, Jim Yates, Bruce Allen, Kenny Delco, Mark Powick, Bernie Federley, Tim Richards, Chuck Worsham. He's a former crew chief. I think he's the dad of former driver Del Worsham, who was a longtime top fuel and funny car driver and was also a champion as well. I don't know why. I actually don't know if Del Worsham is still racing. I feel like he didn't race this past season, but that could have been due to sponsorship issues. Who knows? But I believe Chuck was is his dad and was a crew chief for some time. John Medlin. Greg Anderson is a former crew chief and then later became a driver as well. He drives for KB Motorsports, I think is what it is. There's very little information about them online, but if you are able to find their address, you could send it there. I got this obtained in person because when I wrote to them, it took over a year to hear back. But he's still actively driving. He is now the number one winningest Pro Stock driver. Chris Karamazines, Michael Brotherton, Daryl Gwynn, Don Garlitz again, and Pat Austin. So the 91 set is pretty small. I think it's like 130 cards. 92 set's a lot larger with like 200. So there's more names in there. A couple guys get 3 cards instead of 2. And there's a lot of additional crew chiefs as well as like broadcasters and others who are involved in NHRA. There's also a 93 set. I only have like 2 of those cards signed, and those were ones that drivers provided, not ones that I sent. I don't think I'm going to do that one just because I don't want to flood these people with too much mail. But it's been a fun set to work on. I have a few that are still out. I actually just sent one out the other day, and it's definitely going to slow down from here on out. But if I get any more, I'll definitely share them with you guys. All these addresses, other than maybe Shirley Muldowney and Greg Anderson, should be available online on Sports Card Forum, Star Tiger, sportscollectors.net, so that you guys can write to them as well. As far as I know, all of these people are still alive. I only just started this one last year. Haven't heard anything about any of them passing, but I could have very well missed something. But definitely a cool sport. If you ever get a chance to view it live, do so. Definitely be careful in the pits when they start up the engine, because it's not the smell of the fuel, it's the burning of your eyes that gets you. But it's a very cool experience. These are some of nicest people you'll ever meet in your life, and they've been pretty good to fans, and I think they deserve a little bit more recognition for the racing that they did and the impact that they had on racing and safety in racing as well. When you're going 330 miles per hour, you gotta make some advancements there for sure. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna try and get a few more collections put together and shared with you guys, because I didn't go through all of them before the new year. Just didn't really have the time, but now I got a little bit more time to do that. But thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Helps me out a lot. Best luck with your guys' collecting. Take care.